So the Ask Me Anything chatbot is an AI virtual assistant for virtually all retirement services applications. The timing is perfect for this because, as you know, the way people interact with their devices and applications is rapidly changing. So the incoming generation of users is expected to be a messaging generation who prefers to interact with their accounts, in many cases, by means of messaging more than traditional applications. The consensus in the industry is that bots are the wave of the future. A generation of users with less time and patience to learn jargon and navigate the menu structure of a legacy app they don't use often is becoming increasingly comfortable with bots. IBM's Watson has replaced an entire call center. The AI was outperforming humans. Neural lace headwear already allows research subjects to enter text with nothing more than their minds. Okay, the purpose of this demo is to show that just with a couple of lines of HTML, I was able to take the participant chat and migrate it over to the mobile participant version. So you can type in what can you do? And there's the participant blurb about what you can do on the participant site. Of course, the mobile version will be styled with smaller text. Tell me about forfeitures. Oop, didn't like tell me about. So the knowledge base needs some training still. This is a very rough demo version. So you can ask it a different way. And that's actually a good demo because the AI forfeiture, the AI is such that it recognizes if the user tries something and then tries a variation of it and then tries another variation of it, the AI will know that it didn't get it the first time, and it will give less and less value to that pattern going forward. So when the user searches the third time and they finally get it, the AI will know that that's a more appropriate response to the original question than the original given one. So we'll do a little demo of the participant site. Just show some of the questions you can ask on the site. You can ask for definitions. What is a deemed loan? Welcome. Deemed loan. How do I change password? See if it gets that misspelling. No. How do I change my password? Off to a bad start. How do I change? Usually it's pretty good. My password. Okay, it tells you to go there to the security information. There's a link to actually take you there. How can I see a prospectus? How can I see a prospectus? Okay, it tells you to go to see the prospectuses. I want to change the amount I contribute. Okay, that looks good. What are my current investment allocations? Okay, good. How do I transfer money to funds? There's a blurb. What's my balance? Okay. If you're having a problem, So sorry. Account history. Yeah, good. What are the ticker codes of my funds? That's good. And I want to change beneficiary. That's good. So that's basically how the participant site works. That's all we have right there now is questions about 401k and definitions, and you can see a few of them have links in there to show that we could navigate to the pages in question. On to the terminal velocity demo. Okay, this is a demo of the terminal velocity troubleshooting application. So this application allows you to type in English-like questions and looks up knowledge base entries for related issues. So I'll just start keying in some that I know of. Let's see, multiple plans, displaying for a participant. I'll spell it wrong. So I found it even though I spelled it wrong. Participants can't change investment allocation. Okay, found that one too. Loan option not available. Yeah, we're doing pretty good with the spelling. What can you do? You can always ask the bots for help, ask what they're capable of doing. So just give some sample questions that you might ask. Participant can't register. Okay, good. Participant can't log in. Oh, that's the, yeah, okay. That's good. Welcome letter not generated. These were all real common scenarios that we have. This one demonstrates formatted output. You can format the bot response nicely. Mr. Forfeiture exists in admin web, but not on employee lookup. Found that one good. This is a good example of how you can search for a ticket. 1907-2044 was referenced in that previous query, but it's not in any of the lookup issues. So this demonstrates how the bot is able to keep going even when it can't find a term in one of its known questions. It looks through the database of answers and sees if it can get anything close. So we typed in that service that ticket and it found it, even though that was not in any of the questions in the question and answer database. Plan administrator can't log in. Okay, there's causes where that might happen. And missing employee home. That's a common feature. And this one has so many potential causes that we actually have an entire page on it. So this demonstrates how the bot response might contain a link that would allow you to escape out elsewhere to get more information. So here's our page on that topic. So that concludes the demo of the terminal velocity application. Okay, this is an example of the bot for plan administrators. What can you do? So the plan administrator database is just seeded with 3 or 4 sample PA type questions just to demonstrate that we are going out to a dedicated database for plan administrators. For example, asking about ERISA. What is ERISA? Tell me about ERISA. So you can word the questions differently. RMD. Required. Word it differently. Spell it wrong. Got it anyway. This particular one has a link out to the IRS. Just to demonstrate. Hardships. Spelled wrong. And it found it anyway. So hardship distributions with links out for more information. So that's the plan administrator site. You can see if you enter something that's totally not in the database yet. Not in your database. What? So this is the financial advisor bot, the special database for financial advisors. It's only seeded with a couple of questions, but you can ask it, what can you do? These are some of the things in there already. Collective investment trusts. What are yeah, got that even though I messed it all up. So collective investment trusts, and then there's a link out to an external site. What else was there? Litigation risk. Cybersecurity. See, just some FA type questions. This type of variation. How about security? The same thing. Colorado rule. So that's the FA site. I just wanted to demonstrate this database administration tool I've been using to maintain the knowledge bases of bot responses that I've been dealing with during the demo. This is a pre-packaged tool that we can use to do this, to get up and running quickly, for example, in a demo type situation. But there are also APIs to allow your developers to create such a tool. And in an enterprise type application, you'd probably want to do that rather than using this tool. But this is a quick and dirty way to get up and running. You'll see I'll have our whole terminal velocity troubleshooting knowledge base in here. So I exported knowledge base issues from our terminal velocity troubleshooting wiki and imported them into this database, and that gives me the ability to write a bot framework Azure service on top of it to give access to it to our retirement services client-facing sites, for example, or in this case the terminal velocity troubleshooting application. And you'll see this has features that allow you to test the database. You can enter all these questions and answers, make sure that the bot is responding properly. In the test mode, you'll see that there's, when you do enter a question, missing employee home tab is one of our support issues that we run into a lot. This tells you what you should do when you run into that issue. But the tool also tells you, this was my number one hit when you entered that text, but I'm not 100% confident that that was it. So this is my second choice, and this is my third choice. And if one of those choices was actually more appropriate than the response that it gave, you could click this, and from that point forward, it would better associate that response with that particular sentence pattern. And then over here, there may be synonyms, missing employee, home tab. There may be several ways of saying that you anticipate the users might type in. And the natural language understanding is pretty good at figuring it out, even if you don't do this. But in a real wild case, you may enter a synonym here. For example, with beneficiaries on the participant site, you could enter, how do I change my beneficiary? Please show me my beneficiaries. But what if the user typed in, who gets my money when I die? You could enter that type of question here, and from that point forward, the AI would be smart enough to give a better response when the user entered that pattern of sentence. And notice I said not that specific sentence, but that pattern of sentence. The neural network behind the scenes is quite intense, and it understands entire patterns of sentence structure. So you're not just entering particular keywords to search on. Anyway, once you're done adding to or updating or retraining your database, you click Save and you click Publish, and it makes the knowledge base available to your service. It's an Azure bot service, actually part of the Microsoft.NET framework. So you publish it, and it gives you subscription keys and things you can use to actually know how to access that site from your RESTful API. This screen shows on the previous application that we just looked at, that database administration tool. There's a feature that allows you to dump your chat history to a file that lets your business look at exactly the type of questions the users have been asking, how we've been replying, how many times the questions were asked. And that's really important information, not only for the performance of your bot. You want it to get better and better over time, so you identify places where you're completely missing the target. But also, it allows you to see what is on your user's mind. What are they asking? And it might give you ideas for new features or areas that we can investigate to better serve the user. This screen just demonstrates that the REST service call returns JSON that includes a confidence level indicator. So when you get the user types in a question and your developer gets a response back from the user, the bot framework tells it how sure it is that that's what the user was asking. And you may have a certain threshold where you're just going to say, well, that's just not good enough. I'm not going to present that response to the user. I'm going to prompt the user to enter another question or choose another response. Of course, some applications would be more tolerant than others. A medical type application would have very low tolerance for mistakes. Something like hotel reservations, maybe not so much. I'm really excited about this screen because the Microsoft technologies allowed me to get up and running really quick for the HackRS competition in a way that none of the other ones, Google, IBM, Amazon, none of them would have been anywhere near as quick. Microsoft had all sorts of tools and templates and code generation, especially in that phase 1 question and answer phase, that allowed me to get up and running really quick, and it was just really a pleasure to work with. And phase 2 is awesome because this phase 2, the Microsoft Lewis API, allows the user to enter things in their natural language and map them to constructs that you as a developer know how to deal with. So your site may handle contribution rate changes and loan requests, and the Microsoft language understanding would allow the user to specify that they wanted to do one of those things, and then no matter how the user worded it, they would return the response back to the developer saying, this user wants to request a loan for $10,000 payable over 40 months, and it's going to be a home loan as opposed to a general loan. that's the general idea. I'm not sure, exactly where we would go with it, but it sounds like there's a lot of potential there to investigate, and find out if there's something of great value for us. And phase 3, the form flow feature of the Microsoft Bot Framework is just really good. I got started with this too, and I guess it's too much of a long story, but it basically allows you to specify in text what you would on a web form. So if there's a transaction that requires several specific fields with specific data types, the form flow feature will prompt the user through entering that information in a way that's very little onus on the developer, and a very pleasant, successful experience with the user that allows the user to actually request partial or complete transactions using text. So these are some of the technologies used in the HackRS challenge. Just wanted to share. Okay, I'm not going to get technical during the demo, but I did want to show the Lewis AI feature is the one that allows you to map requests by the user into verbs that you as an application developer know how to deal with. So just wanted to show that quick, just a rough idea. I have a sample application for the participant site that has specific things it knows how to do. In this case, all it can do is change contribution and request alone. So you enter these, they're called intents. You enter them in Lewis, and then you establish what they call utterances with them. So you yourself set up the synonyms. Of course, the language understanding, works by itself to some degree, but you yourself can train the understanding to better handle specific synonyms. So for changing contribution rate, I entered all these utterances, they call it. And when Lewis subsequently understands the user entering this kind of thing, then it'll successfully map a contribution rate change request to a actionable item that I as a developer know what to do with. And it'll pass as a parameter, the requested contribution rate. So we entered intents there, which is the things that your application knows how to do. And then there's entities, so the types of parameters that the user may send with that request. And then there's all sorts of training and testing capabilities. And I guess I'll show at the same time, once you've done that, you basically publish it and it gives you a key. And then you go to the Azure portal and create a bot service to present that using a RESTful API to your application. So here's the one we just did. So there's a bot service for the participant site. It's too slow. Bot service for the participant site, and then if you do channels, it'll actually give you the HTML you need to invoke that service, and it'll present and surface to the user a full chat experience without any more coding on the developer's part, no more front-end coding than that little snippet of HTML and then maybe some styling. So the demo wouldn't be complete without the part about the fact that the user can enter their questions in Chinese. So using Lewis again, I created a mapping of user input to a couple of verbs that our participant site would know how to handle, and put it in the I created it in the Chinese culture, and set up the ability to change the contribution rate and request a loan in Chinese. And I entered some utterances and some entities, and trained and tested it. And so basically I'll just do a technology demo. This is a pretty good demo because it demonstrates how you can take some text from Google Translate even and say request loan for 10,000, whatever, 10,000, and take the Chinese and go over and test your application. Type in the utterance, request loan for 10,000, and this shows that it understood that what the user wanted to do was request a loan with a 98% confidence. And I'll do another one, change contribution to 6. Copy that. Do more interactive testing. Change contribution rate to 6. So it understood that the user wanted to change their contribution rate, but only 59% confidence level. But it did understand that the 6 was the new desired contribution rate. So it parsed out the intent and the desired rate, but again, it wasn't super confident that it did the right thing. So I've done this, several times, and when I enter different information, like to change my amount or something like that, it comes out with a higher confidence level. But it's just a demonstration. I'll move on to Spanish. This one just demonstrates quickly how a user could enter a request in Spanish, and I would map it to something that our 401k site knew how to do with. So I set up a Spanish language understanding application for participant. I'll just expand it. So I just set it up to do a couple of things. It knows how to change beneficiary. It knows how to change contribution rate. It knows how to request a loan. Just entered some specific utterances from courtesy of Daniel Pareja. That allowed me to train the database to allow the user to enter some requests in Spanish. So, train. So here I can enter totally random utterance, right? So I go to Google Translate, change the contribution rate, change the contribution. I'll just take that. It's not exactly like anything that's in there yet. And test it. I say change the contribution to 6. And this demonstrates that it understood the Spanish that was typed in with a 79% degree of confidence, and also parsed out the new contribution rate percent into a separate variable here. So I can do the same thing for changing beneficiaries and the other intent that I set up. But this is just to demonstrate that user can enter questions in their own language, and we would respond in English. And technically, you could set up the entire Q&A to take place in the native language, but of course you'd need people, translators in the business to provide all that content. But it's all doable.